Yo, party people. Okay, we are at number 2 for December 19th, chapter 5 in Ezra. So as I had mentioned in the previous video, Ezra was the person who wrote 1st and 2nd Chronicles. 1st and 2nd Chronicles was the story of all these kings, as I have covered a million times. I know you guys are probably sick of seeing these notes. The Saul was the first king, David, then Solomon, David's son, and then Rehoboam was Solomon's son. The kingdom split under Rehoboam. This was the northern kingdom who was not following God pretty much from the beginning. There was some good people here, but not generally. And then here they had their own troubles in the southern kingdom, but they had the Davidic line, the legitimate kingship, and through which the Messiah came. So when they went into captivity, the southern kingdom fell to Assyria. We see that here in this little tattered map. Southern kingdom, the northern kingdom here went into captivity to Assyria. Southern kingdom survived a little bit longer, but they ended up, many of them went into captivity to Babylon. And remember, during this time, they practiced replacement. Oh God, now I can't remember the word again. The ruling people, Assyria, would take out some people from Israel and take them and spread them throughout their kingdom, and they would bring in their people from other places and bring them here. Same thing happened here. And so, but during that time, there was always a remnant. The reason for them doing that, replacement migration, that's the word. So this is nothing new, right? So this was practiced back in the biblical times, but during that time, there was always a remnant of Israel there. There was always a remnant of Jews. Many of them that were left in the provinces would intermarry with people that came in. So there was a lot of dilution of, I'll get something on my glasses. So there was a dilution of their way of life, or their, what do you call it? Their culture. So, and many of those other cultures that were brought in, of course, worshiped false gods, right? So there was a dilution there, right? And whenever you do that with the replacement migration, taking out the people that were there, you're removing memories, right? You're removing, especially because they would always take like the strong people, the learned people, and they would leave the agrarian people. So a lot of times they were not as learned, right? They didn't have as much teaching, but and so that was easier for them to take over this area. And by bringing in other people, they kept them like focused on fighting each other or having disputes among each other. So it strengthened the person who took over the area, right? Because they could do what they want, because the native people that were left in the land were struggling to survive and struggling to maintain their identity in the midst of this onslaught of new people that were bringing in foreign things, right? So that's nothing new under the sun. So we see that going on presently throughout the world, and it's causing all kinds of problems throughout the world, but it was done back then. And the whole point of doing it is that it strengthens the people in power, because the people down at the bottom, those of us, we can't, we're trying to survive, right? We don't have, it's very successful. It's been very successful. However, what you see in the book of Ezra is that there was a remnant. There's always a remnant. And so it was that remnant they're going back to strengthen under Cyrus. They were told to go back and strengthen under Cyrus and rebuild the temple, right? So that's what they're doing. So here we see they had been stopped by, in chapters 1 through 4, they had come up against resistance. They had stopped. And then Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the prophet, we saw in the beginning of chapter 5, came in and they began to declare the word of the Lord. You know, what are you doing? Why are you building your houses and you're not building the house of the Lord? So go back and read Haggai's only 2 chapters. It's freaking awesome. Zechariah, the entire thing, same thing. He's talking about visions he's getting from God and how God is calling them. You know, I called Cyrus, God, you know, God is saying, I called Cyrus by name and he released you and sent you back. Now do what you were sent back to do, right? So here we see this time Tattenai is the person who's come up against them, and he is one of 20 rulers, local rulers under the Persian king, right? So he's extremely powerful. He's like an emperor there. Everybody in that region reports to him, and he reports directly to Darius. And so he sends a letter to Darius saying, what's going on here? These people are rebuilding this temple, because it had stopped for a few years, remember? But then Zechariah and Haggai came in, that you saw at the beginning of chapter 5, and were encouraging the people to get back to the work of God. So they began rebuilding the temple. And so here's the letter he sent to Darius. So let it be known to the king that we went into the province of Judea to the temple of the great God, which is being built with heavy stones, and timber is being laid in the walls, and this work goes on diligently and prospers in their hands. Then we asked those elders and spoke thus to them, who commanded you to build this temple and to finish these walls? We also asked them from them their names to inform you that we might write the names of the men who were chief among them. And thus they returned an answer to us, saying, now the Tattenai is quoting the response of the Jewish leaders. We are the servants of the God of heaven and earth, and we are rebuilding the temple that was built many years ago, which a great king of Israel built and completed. But because our fathers provoked the God of heaven to wrath, he gave them into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, the Chaldean, who destroyed this temple and carried the people away to Babylon. However, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Babylon, King Cyrus issued a decree to build this house of God. Also, the gold and silver articles of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple that was in Jerusalem and carried into the temple of Babylon, those items King Cyrus took from the temple of Babylon, and they were given to one named Sheshbazzar, whom he had made governor. That's also, what's his name? The king of Judah. He had a couple different names. And he said to him, take these articles, go, carry them to the temple that is in Jerusalem, and let the house of God be rebuilt on its former site. Then the same Sheshbazzar came and laid the foundation of the house of God which is in Jerusalem. But from that time even until now it has been under construction, and it is not finished. So that was their answer to Tattenai the governor that he put in the letter. Now this is the letter continuing. Now therefore, this is Tattenai, his words, speaking to the king of Darius in the letter. Now, therefore, if it seems good to the king, let a search be made in the king's treasure house, which is there in Babylon, whether it is so that a decree was issued by King Cyrus to build this house of God at Jerusalem, and let the king send us his pleasure concerning this matter. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 5. So there's a lot of interesting things going on there. I just want to cover real quick. He repeats and honors God, and he doesn't speak deprecatingly about the God of the Jews. He is respectful, and that you see that in other documents. They have recovered clay tablets from Nineveh and all these other places that are very similar in language, and so there's a lot of historical documents that have been recovered in different areas that reflect similar language and similar processes of government, right? So and then it's very interesting that again, a lot of these names, Cyrus, I think I mentioned this before, Cyrus was called by name by God in the book of Isaiah, and so they are repeating back to them the things that, the historical events that these guys are familiar with, that the people that are over them are familiar with these kings, right? They know their history, so they're recognizing that he did these things, and but they find it interesting that he told them to go back and build this temple, right? So that's unusual for them. But as I said when we were covering this earlier, there was a good reason for Cyrus to do this, because naturally it was by him doing this, it was creating a bulwark for him against Egypt, right? So there was a political, military motive that he would have an ally there, that he allowed these people to go back to their land and build their temple and worship their God, which was so unusual, but that would give him a strong ally there against Egypt, right? And then furthermore, it was believed that it's possible that Daniel actually showed him this prophecy. So because remember at the time of this, if you read the book of Daniel, Daniel's book takes place, he's one of the young people that is taken captive into Babylon, into exile, and he actually is promoted with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to a place of privilege, or not privilege, but of power within the Babylonian kingdom. So when it's taken over by Persia, at the end of Daniel, you see Darius the Mede takes over. So it's very interesting. It's possible that Cyrus did do this because he saw that his name was prophesied and it was politically expedient for him to do it. So who knows? But anyways, he does do it, and so that's where we're at right now. So like I mentioned, Zechariah and Haggai are mentioned here. If you want to go back and read their stuff, it's really good because it's applying directly to these people, to this situation right here that we're reading, and we will cover that in the future. Just remember, so tomorrow we're going to go into Ezra 6, chapter 6. Remember that there's only one way to the Father, and that's Jesus Christ. And all you have to do is say, Jesus, I give my life to you, and you're in, right? Begin to seek him, and he promises he will never leave us nor forsake us, and he's everything in this world was prepared for his kingdom and for his people. So that's all I had for you. so it's early in the morning here. I'm not all the way awake. So read your Bible. Jesus is coming. Get a good study Bible. Don't forget the Bible Step app, STEP. It's super helpful. Okay, gotta go. I'm out of time. Peace. See you tomorrow.